The story begins when Musashi, Kojiro, and Sugumi have just arrived in an ocean. They are looking for information about Kojiro's father while bringing a role this father ever gave him. They finally find Uesugi Fortress. As they are about to enter the fortress, they are stopped by a bushi named Neo Kanatatsu, a general of Uesugi Bushi Band. All Bushi Band are not allowed to enter Uesugi Fortress as the head is preparing for the battle and is waiting for a special guest. Here, Kojiro states they are not a part of Uesugi Alliance. It makes them suspected by all the Bushi and would be arrested for interrogation. One of the Bushi even knocks Musashi down in a single kick. Suddenly, a helicopter appears and all the Bushi bow down, except Musashi and Kojiro. The helicopter brings the special guest the head of Uesugi is waiting for. It turns out the special guest is the head of Takeda Bushi Band named Takeda Naotora, whom Musashi and Kojiro met before. Naotora remembers Musashi and Kojiro even though they only meet once in a mining site when they were fighting an Oni. Sugumi explains Naoro that is the second strongest Bushi and one of the 5 Grand Generals. Kanatatsu tells Naotora that they need to apprehend Musashi, Kojiro, and Sugumi as they are not part of their ranks, but Naotora explains that they work for him. Finally, they manage to convince Kanatatsu and doesn't arrest them. Kanatatsu then takes Naotora to see Uesugi. Musashi wants to come as well, but Naotora doesn't allow him as only he can meet Uesugi. Finally, Naotora meets the head of Uesugi Alliance named Uesugi Tatsuomi. Tatsuomi asks Naotora a favor to assault the Kishin in Awaji Island. The island is inhabited by a powerful dragon green Kishin known as Yamata no Orochi, which is helped by a Bushi from Obsidian. This person has made a plan to destroy Uesugi. Elsewhere, Musashi and the others are in a boat. They are guarded by 2 higher-ups of the Takeda Bushi Band named Sanada Aoshi and Yamamoto Shunrai. Shunrai tells Musashi that they won't let him meet Tatsuomi Uesugi since they don't like outsiders. Aoshi explains that they will be facing Yamata no Orochi, which is much bigger than the Kishin they faced before, and it's one of the 4 Blights, the 4 Kishin that were born from the Black Kishin. Moreover, he explains that the goal of this battle this time is to cut off the supply so that the Green Kishin won't get bigger. As they reach Shiria Castle, Musashi tries to sneak into the castle to monitor the situation. He asks Sugumi to lift him over the castle wall as he wants to learn more about Kojiro's father. Unfortunately, he meets the head of Uesugi who is sitting on the roof. Musashi doesn't recognize the man next to him is the head of Uesugi Alliance. They then talk about Bushi who have life trace from the ancestor. But suddenly Kanatatsu appears and tells Uesugi that Musashi is not a part of the alliance. Tatsuomi mood changes finding the outsider sneaks in the castle without permission. Although Musashi is guarded by Naotora, he still must get punished. Kanatatsu states trespassing in the castle is grounds for execution, but as he is with Naotora, Tatsuomi orders they take Musashi to the barracks. Kojiro and Sugumi are also caught, and they are being taken with Musashi to the barracks. They are given Uesugi clothes and placed in different barracks. Musashi ends in a room with other Bushi. There are 2 Bushi facing each other. The left one is led by a Bushi named Shimazu Ekihiro, the young master of the great Shimazu family, while on the right side is a Bushi band led by the head of Amako Bushi, Amako Hizami. Both of them will hold a battle to determine the strongest. There, Musashi meets Michiru, who turns out in the same barrack. Musashi then joins the battle to win the title the head of the group and to look for the information about Kojiro's father easier. They will use the blunt side of the sword so that it won't hurt one another. Those who step out of line will be declared defeat, and the battle begins. A 3-way fight then starts. Musashi looks determined with the fight. He focuses to beat Amako. Musashi blocks Amako's attacks. Everyone is amazed with his fighting skills. Suddenly, Akihiro attacks Musashi, but again Musashi blocks the attack. Akihiro keeps on launching his attack on Musashi and have him cornered. Akihiro puts his Kaitetsu blade on his leg, allowing him to attack with his leg. Akihiro is the one who trains swordsmanship techniques against fellow Bushi. As a result, Akihiro manages to knock Musashi down. Musashi awakens moments later, seeing Amako collapsing and losing to Akihiro. He wants to get back to the fight, but Akihiro tells him he lost as he is out of the lines. Musashi stretches out his hand, asking Akihiro to be friends. But Akihiro declines, stating that it is a lie. Akihiro assumes that both Amako and Musashi only wanted to protect themselves. Furthermore, he states that Musashi was only looking for his self-interest to get a good spot in the unit. Akihiro points that Katsumi and Musashi are not fit to be leaders since they are selfish, and as he is the leader and everyone here should listen to him. Later, Akihiro attends the strategic meeting with the leaders. He informs his unit that they will be arriving on Awaji Island tomorrow. Their unit is a part of the first deployment, and as the leader, they need to follow his command, and insubordination will be dealt with Shimazu style. However, Musashi against it and has his own opinion. He states that it will be better if they discuss the matter together. He thinks that as a fellow colleague are not seen from its position. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't listen to him and prefers to follow Akihiro, including Michiru, who disagree with Musashi's idea. Musashi then goes to another barrack to see Kojiro and Sugumi. There, he sees the familiarity of each bushi, which is different from what he experiences. The following day, Amako Bushi Band is assigned to pin the enemy. Shimazu Bushi Band will precede the execution, while Musashi is assigned to peel potatoes and accompanied by Noguchi Kijinosuke. The scene swifts elsewhere, where the higher-ups are holding a meeting. One of them is Yusami Kuroko, Basuji Band tactician. They discuss about Neo Kanatatsu, who leads the battle in Awaji Island. Suddenly, their ship is attacked by a group of Oni. Musashi uses his Kaitetsu blade to shoot out an attack, but it just bounces off the Oni's horn. Musashi tries attacking the horn's core numerous times, but he almost gets eaten by the Oni. Luckily, Kanatatsu saves Musashi in time and defeats the Oni. Neo Kanatatsu is one of the 3 strongest dragons of Kanatatsu Bushi. Kanatatsu has several selected subordinates. One of them is Amakasu Masaki. They absorb Kaitetsu power from the Oni they defeated. However, the battle is not over because other Oni are coming. Later, Akihiro Bushi Band arrives. They begin to channel the blade energy circuit and direct it to Akihiro. That way, Akihiro manages to split up the Oni's horn in one kick. This case reminds Musashi to the time when Obsidian Goddess absorbs the power of the Bushi. All Bushi create a great unity and work together to defeat the Oni, but Musashi doesn't. He starts to feel insecure and blames himself. Starting with Tatsuomi when he talked to Naotora. It turns out Tatsuomi has heard about the appearance of Obsidian Goddess in the sword's trial. Tatsuomi asked Naotora's help to catch Obsidian Goddess. Both don't know that Obsidian Goddess lives inside Musashi. Musashi blames himself. He thinks he is useless and he keeps on thinking what other Bushi talk about him. But the truth is everyone needs his power that actually belongs to Obsidian Goddess. Musashi doesn't aware if Mikiru watches him. Amako finds Musashi, who intends to run away. As the head of a Bushi, he has great caring personality. He greets Musashi and cheers him. He then tells Musashi that Awaji Island was the homeland of Amako Bushi, but lost it when the Oni took over. That's why he joins this battle to take over his homeland. That's why Musashi returned to Uesuji's shipyard and decides to fight until the end. The next morning, Musashi is trained by Amako Bushi to master blade energy circuit. This training is also monitored by Michiru, who turns out she has black crystal like what Musashi has. It turns out Mikiru was the enemy's spy who was assigned to look for and kill the owner of Obsidian Goddess. Michiru reports to her father, Inuda Yataro, that she has not found the owner of Obsidian Goddess yet. Yataro tells her that black crystal will connect to each other when she finds the owner of Obsidian Goddess. Michiru is the 3,000th daughter Yataro created. Michiru is the only half-human Oni who masters Kaitetsu blade and Yataro relies on. Actually, Michiru has found out that Obsidian Goddess is inside Musashi. Her guard suggests her to kill Musashi as soon as possible. However, killing Musashi is a difficult option as she has fallen for him. Since the beginning, Michiru has figured out that Musashi is the person she needs to kill. After spending time together with Musashi, Michiru realizes she has fallen for him and she doesn't want him to die. Musashi then asks Michiru to help him practice Kaitetsu blade. However, as Michiru attacks Musashi, they are immediately connected and black crystal appears on them. This incident reveals Musashi and Michiru identity that's surely known by Yataro and Uesuji. Michiru and Musashi are connected and are in the same dimension. Kojiro and Sugumi notice that the black crystal comes from Musashi in that dimension. Michiru then asks Musashi to run away, but they have been surrounded by Uesugi Bushi Band. Kuroko launches his attack on them and manages to stop them. They are suspected as the owner of Obsidian Goddess vessel and the enemy's spy. Musashi is tied in a stake and is watched by all the Bushi while Michiru is simply released. To help Musashi, Michiru uses the black crystal to contact her father. Since the beginning, Uesugi has figured out Michiru's identity as the enemy's spy. Uesugi has planned this and intentionally releases her to find out the enemy base. Uesugi gathers all Bushi and announces they will carry out a major attack on the enemy base. Their focus is to defeat Yamada no Orochi. Every Bushi who manages to cut off its horn will be given a fortress as a reward. But this time, Shimazu Bushi Band is not allowed to join the battle because Musashi and Michiru are involved in certain suspicion. Now Tora and his men are shocked to see Shiro launches White Ring Blade. According to them, Bushi with White Blade is rare and rumored as the strongest. Meanwhile, Shiro mocks Now Tora, who has Blue Aura Sword. Shiro thinks Bushi with Blue Aura is the weakest among the red and yellow. Now Tora refuses to give up and proves that blade color doesn't determine the victory. Shiro immediately attacks him using his dimension skill. This time, he takes out a very hot mountain lava, but as Shiro directs the lava at Now Tora, the lava suddenly freezes and turns into stone. Now Tora counterattacks Shiro by creating Fire and Ice Tiger, but Shiro easily makes the tiger disappear. Shiro then brings Now Tora to another place with his skill and intends to fight him alone without any intervention. Shiro mocks Now Tora's skill, stating that the skill won't be enough to kill or destroy Oni's horn. But while launching a strange power, Now Tora replies that his skill is actually not intended to defeat Oni, but to face a traitor. Back then, Now Tora saw with his own eyes when his fellow clan slaughters by a traitor Bushi. After that, Now Tora with his power attacks Shiro, and at the same time, Now Tora's men witness Shiro's interdimension skill explodes. Later, Now Tora appears from the smoke. It turns out Now Tora didn't kill Shiro, but he immobilizes him. Now Tora must accept that he has no longer used blade energy for a meantime. Then it is seen Shiro is following Yataro. On the way, Michiru feels she has forgotten something important for her. She tries to remember it, but it hurts her. They arrive in a place filled with human Yataro created. Musashi and his group continue their journey to look for Yataro. Finally, they meet Yataro, who seems to have been waiting for Musashi. It turns out Yataro has succeeded merging himself with Obsidian Goddess and human at the same time. As a result, his body grows bigger. He changes thousands of his daughters into swords, but the Bushi don't hesitate to strike them. They keep moving forwards to attack them, but they are killed by Yataro as he launches his attack. Fortunately, Musashi and Amako Bushi are not in line so that they are saved from Yataro's attack. Shimazu Bushi arrives to kill Oni. They immediately attack Yataro, who is changed into a demon, but as they want to connect the blade energy chain, they are stopped by Yataro. They keep on trying to connect the blade energy but still doesn't work. Their formation messed up and one of them almost gets attacked. Fortunately, Musashi comes to save him. Musashi also wants to fight to help them, while Akihiro is waiting for the blade energy chain from his unit, which is always failed by Yataro. They even seem to get blocked to connect the energy chain to Akihiro. Suddenly, the barrier seems to disappear little by little. It turns out Musashi destroys the barrier. Everyone is surprised to see what he is doing. Yataro doesn't stay still and immediately attacks him. After knocking Musashi down, Yataro returns to attack Shimazu unit, leaving them confused what to do. As they want to try again, suddenly one of them is surrounded. Instead of helping him, Akihiro blames him for his slow movement. As the person feels hopeless, suddenly Musashi arrives and saves him. Musashi then tells them to return to their formation to connect the blade energy chain. Musashi then attempts to destroy the barrier, and as they begin to perform the blade energy, one of them suddenly is in danger. Luckily, Musashi arrives in time and rescues him until they finally channel the blade energy. Akihiro then directs his blade, aiming the horn, and he did it. Elsewhere, Kanatatsu's man reports that the final enemy Bushi has been defeated. Kanatatsu looks weak and is still under treatment to recover his energy. With the enemy defeat, there is no more barrier to cut Yamada no Orochi's horn. Not long after that, Now Tora arrives. He says that his troops will help Yasuhi to defeat Yamada no Orochi because Now Tora cannot use blade energy this time, and so does Kanatatsu. Suddenly, then a shock occurred. It turns out the shock occurred in Musashi's place, where the Kishin they defeated is still alive and transforms into a slime and carrying stones. The creature head towards Yamada no Orochi while sucking the mineral stones from the Uromine. From afar, Now Tora sees the white serpent creature carrying the mineral stones. He realizes that if it is eaten by Yamada no Orochi, his power will be recovered. And if this happens, people from Takeda and Yusuji Bushi that are facing him will immediately slaughtered. As for now, Yamada no Orochi cannot fight back because he is starving. Meanwhile, Shimazu Bushi members admits Musashi is helpful and thanks to him, Shimazu and Amako Bushi has made up. They then think of a strategy to defeat the Kishin. As Musashi wants to give his opinion, Akihiro doesn't respond to him. The oldest Shimazu was mad at Akihiro, who didn't do anything when his colleagues were in danger. He asks why Akihiro only cared for himself and didn't think his colleagues. Moreover, he assumes that Akihiro only took advantage of his colleagues for his own benefit. Akihiro then admits it, causing his oldest brother to get angry and hit Akihiro. They decide not to follow Akihiro anymore. Akihiro, who is annoyed, then throws something. Musashi picks it up and asks one of the members what it is. He then explains it is a force maker, a piece of wood that is used for planning battles at Bushi war councils. Back then, when Akihiro came, the others were still little. They used it too, and they talk about their dream for the future. Musashi then realizes something. Not long after that, they catch up to the shite serpent creature. A Mako group manages to stop its movement, while Shimazu tries to channel the blade energy chain. They ask Musashi to take Akihiro's position as the striker because he is a red-bladed Bushi, and only he can do it except Akihiro. Musashi agrees, but as the blade energy is directed to him, Akihiro tries to steal the link and he fails. They agree not to give the link to Akihiro, but Akihiro doesn't care. He insists to steal it and will cur the horn of the Kishin. They begin to argue, and Musashi then apologizes to Akihiro. He states he should not take over his position. Musashi then reminds him about his dream when he was child to cut the Oni's horn together with his brothers. That's why Akihiro is obsessed to cut the Oni's horn. But Akihiro denies it, stating that Musashi is wrong but let him think that way, and he leaves. The story continues about the conflict among the Shimazu brothers. Akihiro tries numerous times to steal energy blade link that they want to give Musashi. Finally, Akihiro manages to steal the link and attacks the Oni, but he fails to break it. Instead, Akihiro manages to stop it from moving for a while. It makes the others confused with their brother, where they think he is obsessed with power and glory. Even though his brother had thought how to lead his brothers when he was child, but everything changed when the sword trial was held. Akihiro turned to be red-bladed Bushi, while his brothers have blue-bladed power. Since then on, their father appointed Akihiro as the leader of his brothers. Akihiro refused it and recommended his oldest brother to be the leader, but his father asked both of them to duel to prove who suited to be the leader. As the duel began, Akihiro won the duel, and since then, he was announced the leader by his father, and they are prohibited to oppose everything Akihiro did. After that, Akihiro told his father he didn't expect to have such power, while he didn't want the power for himself. Moreover, he said that he would give the power to anyone who wanted. Deep inside, his brother wanted the power so bad. Since then, the five of them followed all Akihiro's order. Meanwhile, Visuji and Takeda unit keep on attacking Yamada no Orochi to pressure him. Elsewhere, the white serpent creature revives, and it manages to bounce their attack. Akihiro then tells everyone to line in and start connecting their blade energy because it is not enough to break the horn by depending on Shimazu's chain only. He orders everyone to start connecting their blade energy without moving from their position. The rest, Akihiro will launch the final blow. They are disappointed with Akihiro, who always looks down on his brothers, but they begin to line in and make the link. But before that, one of Akihiro's brothers states that after this, it won't make their relation return as it was. He asks Akihiro if he thinks his brothers are not important. Akihiro replies that he doesn't care with that nonsense, and he attacks the Oni. It turns out Akihiro never forget his childhood with his brothers. He did that because he doesn't want to involve them in danger. On the final attack, Akihiro and the Oni suddenly are swallowed by Yamada no Orochi. They are shocked to see this and think Akihiro has died. But his brother realizes that their link is still connected, meaning that Akihiro is still alive. However, Musuji Bushi instructs them to retreat as Yamada no Orochi's power will be recovered soon. They state it will be dangerous for them if they are still at that place. Wasuji and Takeda Bushi members withdraw from the battle. At that time, Musashi asks Shimazu brothers if they will rescue their brother who is in danger. They had thought not to save him because his brother hates him after his manner. However, Musashi gives him the Force Maker, stating that Akihiro always brings this object with him all the time. It makes his brother realize, and he rushes to catch up with Akihiro. Inside Yamada no Orochi's mouth, Akihiro keeps chasing the white serpent. When Akihiro is off guard, the Oni attacks him. Luckily, his brother arrives in time and saves him. Meanwhile, the others are trying to pin the Oni movement. His brother hands him the object, telling him not to do anything alone. He asks him if he really doesn't trust his brothers, but Akihiro responds that he did that because his brother's life is precious to him. That's why he always wanted to be in front line without getting everyone hurt. There, his brother has just realized that what Akihiro did is merely to make his brother safe. Not long after that, Musashi and Shimazu brothers join them. They come to help Akihiro defeating the Oni. They begin to channel the blade energy. As Akihiro receives the link, suddenly his vision starts blurry, and he fails receiving the link and collapses. That is when Musashi offers to replace Akihiro, but Akihiro refuses. His brother then approaches him and says something to him. Akihiro starts getting up and gets his determination. Finally, they succeed connecting their blade energy and Akihiro launches his attack to the Oni's horn and it dies. Wasuji and Takeda cheer for their victory because Yamada no Orishi's food supply has been cut. They also manage to cut 8 Yamada no Orichi's horns, meaning that Yamada no Orichi also disappears. After that, the relationship between Shimazu brothers are getting better. Akihiro tells Musashi that he will return the favor. After all the achievement, the rest is helping the head of Uesugi, Tatsuomi. This task belongs to the team which is led by Kojiro and Sugumi. After Yamada no Orochi is defeated, all Bushi feels relieved. Kanatatsu waits for a report from Kajiru's team who is assigned to rescue Tatsuomi. The Bushi begin to absorb Kitetsu from Yamada no Orochi, but surprisingly, the Kitetsu cannot be absorbed to them, but is absorbed to another place in the cave. Kojiro and the others try to exterminate the Oni that seem to guard the place. That's why they believe that Tatsuomi must be inside. Suddenly, the cave starts to crumble. As a result, the black stone appears in a sudden. They are confused with what happened where Yamada no Orichi is gone. Kanatatsu, who is worried with Tatsuomi's condition, plans to go catching up with Kojiro's team. Kanatatsu cries as he thinks although they have won, it would be meaningless if he loses someone precious to him. Hearing it, Musashi hurries up catching up with them. The others also head there to check the condition. As he runs, Musashi feels like he is connected to Michiru. Finally, Kojiro and others manage to bring Tatsuomi alive. Musashi feels relieved, and so does Kanatatsu, who really worries about him. Tatsuomi loses his one arm due to Shiro. Tatsuomi tells Musashi when he was being a hostage. At that time, Michiru asked him if he knew Musashi. Tatsuomi responded asking her back if she knew him herself. Michiru then tells him that she didn't know because she had forgotten everything about Musashi, but as she says his name, she felt like she knew him well. His name even felt so warm for her, but her father asked her to forget him and everything about him. Hearing this, Musashi hurries up to look for Michiru, and so do the others. Arriving there, Musashi notices Michiru's presence and he heads there. There's a floating black sword. Not long after that, someone appears and holds the sword. A bat appears telling the Bushi that person is Michiru's father, using empty shell of Yamada no Orochi. Yataro tells them that Michiru has turned into a black sword. Yataro used a forbidden technique to turn Michiru into a sword. Tatsuomi advances his troops to attack Yataro in full power, but Yataro flattens them in only one strike. Even so, Michiru's consciousness is still exist, looking at the sword that shed tears. As Musashi launches an attack, his blade energy sigh absorbed by the black sword. Yatoro claims the black sword bears equivalent power to Kyukuyo no Megami. Yatoro steals all the Bushi swords and launches his first attack. Luckily, his attack is missed so that no one is harmed. They are confused how to defeat Yataro. They'd have tried many times to attack him, but they can be easily defeated. Even when they fight him with their swords, the sword feels blunt. Yataro says it is because Michiru is still conscious. That time, Musashi realizes that Michiru has two different consciousness. The first is her consciousness that is obsessed to be helpful to her father, and the second is herself who doesn't want to hurt anyone. That's why the sword sheds tears. Musashi tries to make Michiru gain her sense back. Her father doesn't want Michiru to get mixed up and he attacks Musashi. Fortunately, Naotora comes to save him. Naotora tells him they will protect him because he is Kokuyo no Megami. Kanatatsu also tells him he has given him Kokuyo no Megami's blood. Tatsuomi uses the armor of the god of war to increase their blade energy. Even so, Yatoru is still inevitable. It makes them badly injured. Yataro then attacks Musashi but Kojiro blocks. The time then stops and a portal opens with Michiru inside. She acts that she doesn't know Musashi, but he enters inside. Both of them are in child form and Musashi wonders why she is pretending to not know him and Michiru explains that remembering the past hurts. Musashi then sees Michiru's past and the day she was born. Seeing her father, Yataro was angry as she was just another garbage and not the goddess, so he threw her away, while she was crying and not wanting to be abandoned. Musashi realizes she was lonely, and Michiru was surprised he doesn't say anything else to cheer her. However, Musashi states he doesn't know what to say or do. Michiru then notices that Musashi also has a big hole in his heart, and the two laughs. Michiru reveals that she remembers him and likes him. However, she explains that no one can fill the hole except family. Musashi wonders if she would have been better not meeting him, but she disagrees as he helped her realize how much more sparkle the world has, and he warms her inside. Musashi asks her to come with him and find more stuff she cares about. While their holes may be bigger than the other people, it also means there is more room to fill them with stuff. Mikuru agrees and they grow up again. Mikuru explains that time started to move again and she will try to stop her father. Musashi asks her to turn to human again, but she explains she can't as the black stone inside of Yataro turned her into a sword and asks Musashi if he can destroy it. Musashi wonders if he can do it, and Mikuru states the power inside of his is already awakened since he drank the goddess blood. He should be able to master one of her powers completely. Musashi feels his current power. Not long after that, a goddess appears and asks if he is ready to use the power of Kokuyo no Megami to fight. Musashi confirms and he succeeds awakening a part of Kokuyo no Megami's power. After that, Musashi returns to the battle in form of Kokuyo no Megami, but his form this time is different from the time his body was taken over by the goddess. Musashi uses the goddess power and starts gathering the blade energy from the bushi around while shitting in gold. Kojiro and Sugumi notice it's like the time the goddess appeared, but this time Musashi is in control. Yataro starts gathering blade energy too, and stating that if he can't dominate all blade energy, then he is incomplete. Tatsuomi confirms that, stating that since Musashi drank only a fifth of her blood, he can only use a fifth of her power. Musashi and Yataro clash blades, but Yataro overpowers Musashi and cuts his hand holding the sword. However, Musashi then stops Yataro's blade with his finger. Yataro is surprised to see it and Musashi explains he noticed everyone's power is gathering at him and not his sword, so he decided to focus it on his right hand. Musashi then pushes away Yataro and Tatsuomi notices that he enhanced himself, which is a yellow bushi technique. Musashi is certain to be able to defeat Yataro with only one hand, and as he believes, Yataro is defeated. Yataro disappears and Keitetsu that was absorbed returns to its owner. After that, Musashi returns to his form. 2 weeks later, thanks to Tatsuomi's mantle of the war god power, most of the soldiers had survived, while Musashi's arm has returned like it was. Michiru is secured and is isolated. Tatsuomi and now Tora talk about Kuro Inu. Tatsuomi doesn't understand with their motives at keeping him alive. He wonders what Kuro Inu wants. The next morning, they celebrate their victory in taking over Awaji Island. Kojiro returns to his initial goal to find information about his father. Kojiro and Sugumi show the scroll with the Uesugi signature to Tatsuomi. As Tatsuomi sees the scroll, he explains the signature belongs to his father. However, he didn't find a record about a bushi named Jisai Kanmaki, and that was probably a temporary alliance. However, Tatsuomi states Jisai may have been someone important, and he would look for information about his father. At dawn by the sea, Musashi and Michiru enjoy their time together. Musashi then hands in her Keitetsu blade as a reward because Musashi knows that it is her precious. The sword is a form of recognition from her father. Soon Michiru starts to break. She tells him to find a treasure that will fill his lonely void in his heart. Musashi promises to do that for the sake of her. Not long after that, Michiru breaks up, leaving Musashi alone. Even though it is hard for him, Musashi needs to let her go. As they hug, Michiru breaks up and turns into Kitetsu, which is absorbed by her sword. Musashi wonders why she had to be born, and why she also had to die. The goddess answers him, telling him if he wants to know, he must come there to find the answer. The series is ended by showing the members of Obsidian. It is seen Inukawa and Shiro who are still alive, and they have found replacement of Yataro. The second season of Orient ends off here. Thanks for watching.